Now, the UK Independence Party, UKIP, who gave us Brexit, of course, have announced that their leader, Neil Hamilton, is to step down, with a new candidate being sought in the months ahead. Someone hoping to land at the top job is the political campaigner and broadcaster Lois Perry, who has thrown her hat into the ring. She joins me now in the studio. Hi, Lois.
Good evening, Mark. Thank you for having me.
So it's very exciting to have you here. You've garnered plenty of fans as a campaigner. Why do you want to enter the murky world of politics?
Well, I mean, the murky world of politics is what I've been doing for the last 2 years as a campaigner. And, you know, I've had enormous success.
But you don't want to be one of them, do you?
Well, no, well, that's the thing. I'm going to be one of them, but better, you know. But the thing is, UKIP, the UK Independence Party, it was the original party of the disaffected, patriotic, British voter who wanted to show their displeasure with the parties on both the left and the right. So why wouldn't I want to be their leader? You know, why would you go for, why would you go for Pepsi when you can have Coca-Cola? You know, we are the original party of Nigel Farage. We're the only truly democratic protest party as well. We're not a limited company. I could be voted out. You know, that's something that some of the other parties haven't got. Why not? You know, the Tories aren't Tories anymore. They don't support the, business people. The Labour Party don't represent working people. And the other party that I won't mention is the Tories light. You know, we need a real party of the people that can look after the left and the right. And I think I can do that. I think I have an appeal to both. I really do.
Well, I think we might have to talk about the party that you don't want to mention.
Don't make me say horrible things about them.
It involves a certain Richard Tice and Reform UK. First of all, if you become leader, would you work with parties like Reform? Would you seek to collaborate with them?
Well, it wouldn't be whether I'd want to collaborate with them. It would be whether they'd be prepared to collaborate with literally anyone else. And I think there's too many powerful blondes pulling the strings in the Reform Party at the moment. I don't think that they'd be particularly interested in working with me, which is a shame. But the thing is...
Who are those powerful blondes?
I don't know. A bit of Googling. But
you'll be the powerful blonde of UKIP, obviously.
Well, absolutely. As I say, there's too many in Reform. They don't need any more. But with UKIP, we don't actually want to exist. Yeah, we don't actually want to exist. We would like...
You realise that could be clipped and used against you.
Well, no, that's fine. We are the only party that's ever 100% successfully delivered on their mandate, which is to have a referendum on Brexit.
Because UKIP was the first Brexit party, wasn't it?
It was. Well, it was the original and the best. As I said, Coca-Cola, not Pepsi. You know, we're the only party that's completely delivered on our mandate and successfully delivered on our mandate. You know, so yeah, why not?
I mean, you're saying it's Coca-Cola, not Pepsi. I'm wondering whether it's sort of Sainsbury's Cola at the moment, because in the polls, you know, it's less than 10% support. Yeah, Reform are now sort of hoovering up those disaffected, politically homeless voters. Well, so why do you need UKIP when you've got Reform?
Because, as I say, that we need to have a truly democratic party, a party that is an alternative, where you can vote in, you can vote out a leader. As I said, it isn't a limited company, and it's for the people, by the people. But when I said we don't want to exist, of course we want to exist. But what we're going to do, in every single seat, if there's a candidate that represents our values, so independence from illegal immigration, independence from crazy net zero policies, you know, independence from wokedom, we won't stand anybody against them. And that could be a Labour person, it could be a Reform person, it could be a Tory. But if we truly feel that there isn't anybody that has proven, for example, if they're already an MP, or can prove that they stand up for truly British values, then we will stand a candidate against them. There's time for a choice. There's time for a protest vote choice. And I think now, with me at the helm, hopefully, you know, we can really have a choice here.
Are you comfortable with the level of attention that you'll receive if you become the leader of a national political party?
Oh, I'm always comfortable with high levels of attention, Mark.
That's why you're here.
That's why I'm here.
And you do it well.
Go for it. Go for gold.
What would your policy platform look like then? I mean, how would you tackle, for example, the illegal migrant crossings? What is the UKIP answer under your leadership?
Under my leadership, I would say that we should definitely get the Royal Navy involved. And actually, I'm in agreement with Ben Habib, who I think is a top guy,
who is, of course, a Reform UK
Absolutely.
prospective parliamentary candidate.
And this is what I'm saying. When there's a candidate that embodies the views that we have for our membership and for the people that follow us, we'll support them. But he said, I think in an interview quite recently, that basically we should sort of almost consider it, not literally, but technically as an invasion from France. And if that was the case, and if we told France that was the case, that if they allow people to cross the channel towards us, that we would respond accordingly, they'd soon stop doing it.
But would language like invasion not be quite offensive to, these characters, these people who are crossing the channel, seeking a better life and possibly trying to escape persecution?
Well,
do you want to use language like invasion?
It's an invasion if they could buy a ticket on a flight on EasyJet and Ryanair and fly over quite legitimately from a country like, for example, Albania, where a huge amount of these people are coming from. I welcome legitimate refugees. I welcome legitimate migrants. I'm not anti-immigration at all. But people coming over on boats and then going straight over to work doing deliveries, do me a favour, honestly.
There you go. That could be your catchphrase, do me a favour.
Do me a favour. That's an Essex thing, isn't it?
Well, definitely. And you're going to be yourself. You're authentic. I mean, there's no front with you. It's what you see is what you get, isn't it?
Yeah, and possibly that could be my downfall, but I hope not. I hope not.
What about, and I think this is a conversation the country needs to have, legal net migration? Because I sometimes think the illegal crossings are a bit of a red herring. It's, 670,000, something like that last year, legal net migration into the UK.
Yeah.
That's a big pressure, isn't it, on our infrastructure, on housing, GP surgeries, school places.
No, absolutely.
What do you think, what would you angle towards as a good figure for legal net migration annually?
I don't know. I think it depends on what kind of migration we need at the time, so what skills we're looking for and stuff like that. But I do think that we should be curbing when someone is allowed over, for example, on a student visa, or they're allowed in to do study, and then their mum and their aunt and their cousin and their brothers and their girlfriends and all of that can come in as well. I think the Home Office did say they were cracking down on that, but then almost immediately reversed it or delayed when it was going to start. There's so many ways that we can actually curb legal migration. But as I say, I haven't actually got a problem with skilled workers coming over to this country whatsoever. But what I do have a problem with is people that could pay 30 quid, get on an EasyJet flight and coming over on a small boat for £5,000, chucking their passport in the sea, getting over to Dover, making a phone call, and then suddenly they're in a top hotel and they're, doing deliveries or driving taxi services in London immediately.
Now, the outgoing leader is Neil Hamilton.
Yeah, great guy.
How will you do the job better than him?
I don't think I could do the job better than him, but I will make myself as visible as possible. I will put all my Essex girl energy into it.
That's the problem, my criticism of Neil Hamilton. He's got no Essex girl energy whatsoever.
Well, do you know what? I think that if there was to be a criticism of him, he'd probably take that one on the chin. I love him. I love Christine. I'm not in any way critical of his leadership. I think he's been amazing, but let's do the next generation. Let's do this. Let's make it more Essex girl energy.
Now, net zero would be a big policy issue for you.
Yes,
because
absolutely.
you've actually campaigned on that.
Reform very, very brilliantly.
Took,
I had some meetings with Richard Tice right at the beginning. He was a bit sceptical at first about the whole anti-net zero stuff, but I put my case over to him and they adopted all of our policies, which is great.
So what would be your position on climate change and how to tackle it should you become leader of UKIP?
My policy on climate change is that it's happening. My belief, my personal belief, although other beliefs are available, is that, is that it's not man-made, and that even if it was, is it necessarily a bad thing? Slight global warming has led to global greening, for example, and an increase in agricultural output. I don't believe it's a big problem. I believe that actually there are bigger problems in the things that we're doing to tackle it, i.e. people freezing to death in their home or not being able to afford food because they put the heating on, or the libertarian infringement on civil liberties of not not being able to drive, how that affects small businesses, people being thrown out of their cars, kept in the little boxes, looking at screens. I've said all this stuff over and over. I think, anti-net zero is probably a good way of describing the UKIP policy.
You're not going to lack for material, but what about the floods? What about the melting polar ice caps? What about the forest fires? I mean, the planet's heating up, and the majority of climate scientists argue it's our behaviour, it's fossil fuels.
Well, the majority of climate scientists that are allowed to have a voice may say that, but actually, you know, more and more we're hearing from scientists that have different views to that. Just to go through those three things, the fires. They were all arrested, weren't they? The people who set them off.
In Greece, for example.
In Greece, for example.
But they've had it in Canada, they've had it in the States, haven't they?
Well, yeah, and again, you know, forest fires are not unusual, but there has been quite often recently found to be a human element to them.
Sure.
The other thing, ice caps melting, actually, there's increasing evidence that that there's an actual increase in ice at the poles, and where there's been a decrease, there's been increases in other places. Floods, even the IPCC report say that there's no more extreme weather events than there's ever been, really. And in actual fact, the deaths from these so-called extreme weather events, which is actually called the weather, are down over 90% over the last 100 years. So, you know, if we have prosperity, which we have from fossil fuels, we can actually deal with these problems. It's called the weather.
Well, should you get the top job, you're going to bring a lot of colour and excitement to the world of politics, which I think we need.
Excellent.
And God knows who you'll be up against. It might not be Rishi Sunak, it could be Kemi Badenoch. Any thoughts on who should be the leader of the Conservative Party? Do you think the Tories should axe Sunak?
I think that they need to actually have a Tory in charge of the Tory party, and then maybe, you know, my job will be a little bit easier.
There you go. Lois Perry, great to see you in the studio.
Thank you very much.